I have one memory of my mother that I used to think was a dream. I am 4 years old, it is summer. She is standing in the kitchen in a yellow dress, and she is laughing at something on the radio. The light is coming through the window and it hits her just right, and she looks like something out of a painting. She looks at me standing in the doorway and she opens her arms, and I run to her. That is the only warm memory I have of her. Everything after that is cold. By the time I was 7, she was gone. Not gone like she moved away, gone like she was there one morning and then she just wasn't anymore. No goodbye, no letter, no explanation that a 7-year-old could understand. My aunt told me years later that she had simply decided she didn't want to be a mother anymore. She had decided, like it was a subscription she could just cancel. I want you to hold that image for a second. A 7-year-old girl standing at a kitchen window waiting for a car that never comes back. Because that little girl waited for a long time. And what she found out 30 years later about what her mother had been doing all those years she was waiting, that is what this story is about. My name is Nadia, and I have been quiet about this for 30 years. Not anymore. My father did the best he could. I want to say that clearly because he deserves it. He worked 2 jobs for most of my childhood. He packed my lunches wrong, always too much bread, never enough filling, and he forgot about school picture days more than once, and he had absolutely no idea how to do my hair. But he showed up. Every single day he showed up. When I was 9, I asked him why she left. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Some people aren't ready for the life they stepped into. That's not about you. That will never be about you." I believed him because I needed to. But the truth is, you can tell a child something with your mouth, and the child will still feel the opposite thing in their bones. And what I felt in my bones every single day of my childhood was that I was not enough to make her stay. That feeling followed me everywhere. Into every friendship, every relationship, every room I walked into, wondering if the people in it would eventually decide I wasn't worth keeping either. I spent so much of my life trying to be undeniable, trying to be so good, so capable, so easy to love that no one would ever want to leave. It took me a long time to understand that her leaving had nothing to do with who I was. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about my grandmother first, because she is the real center of this story. My grandmother, my father's mother, her name was Cecile. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall. Silver hair she kept pinned up even on weekends. She smelled like lavender and strong coffee, and she had this habit of squeezing your hand twice when she wanted you to know she meant something. When my mother left, Cecile moved in with us. She never made a big announcement about it, she just started showing up every morning, and then one day her things were in the spare room, and that was that. She learned how to do my hair, she figured out my lunches, she came to every school event with a camera that was always slightly too loud in quiet rooms. She was not my mother, she never tried to be, but she was everything. And on the day she died, I was 34 years old, sitting in a hospital room holding her hand. She squeezed my hand twice and said, "There is something waiting for you, something I kept safe. You'll know when it's time." I didn't know what she meant. I thought she was confused, the medication, the exhaustion of the end. I was wrong. Cecile passed on a Thursday morning in early March. The weeks after were gray. Not sad, exactly. She had lived a full life. She hadn't suffered at the end. She was ready in the way that some people are lucky enough to be ready. But gray. The kind of empty that comes after someone who took up a lot of good space in your life is suddenly gone. I handled the arrangements, I sorted through her things, I found her recipe cards with notes in the margins, and I sat on her kitchen floor for a long time just holding them. And then, 6 weeks after the funeral, I got a letter. It came in a cream envelope with a return address I didn't recognize, a law firm in Hartford. I almost didn't open it that day. I set it on the kitchen counter and made coffee and stared at it for 20 minutes. Then I opened it. It was from an attorney named Gerald Marsh. He had been my grandmother Cecile's private attorney for 19 years. He wrote that he had been instructed to contact me 6 weeks after her passing, not before, not after, exactly 6 weeks, and that he had something for me that she had asked him to hold. He asked me to come to his office at my earliest convenience. I called that afternoon and made an appointment for the following Tuesday. Those 5 days between the letter and the appointment were some of the longest of my life.
His office was on the 3rd floor of a building downtown. Dark wood, bookshelves floor to ceiling, the kind of office that makes you feel like whatever happens in it is serious and permanent. Gerald Marsh was older than I expected. White hair, reading glasses on a chain around his neck. He shook my hand with both of his and said he was sorry for my loss, and I could tell he meant it. We sat down. He placed a folder on the desk between us. He said, "Your grandmother came to me 19 years ago. She was very specific about what she wanted and very specific about how and when it was to be delivered. Everything I am about to show you is the result of 19 years of careful, quiet work on her part." I asked him what he meant by careful and quiet. He said, "She did not want certain people to know what she was doing, specifically your mother." The room went very still. I said, "My mother has been gone since I was 7 years old." He nodded slowly and said, "Yes and no." He opened the folder, and what he showed me changed every single thing I thought I knew. My mother did not disappear. She moved 40 minutes away. She had been living 40 minutes away from me for nearly 30 years. Different town, different name, she had remarried twice, but 40 minutes. I could have driven there in the time it takes to watch a movie. She had a house, a garden, a new family, 2 stepchildren she apparently showed up for, soccer games, school plays, parent-teacher conferences. She had just decided not to show up for mine. I want to be very honest with you about what happened inside me when Gerald told me this. There was a moment, maybe 30 seconds, where I felt absolutely nothing, like the information was too large to enter my body all at once. And then I felt something I didn't expect. Not rage, not grief. Clarity. Like a fog I had been living in for 30 years just lifted all at once. Because here's the thing about growing up wondering why your mother left. The wondering itself is the wound, the not knowing, the story you tell yourself to explain the unexplainable. I had told myself so many stories, that she had been sick, that she had been scared, that she had left because of something about my father and not about me. But she had been 40 minutes away, and she had never once reached out. Not a birthday card, not a phone call, not a letter. 40 minutes. I sat with that for a long time before I asked Gerald to keep going. Here is what my grandmother had done. When my mother left, Cecile had been devastated, not just for me and my father, but because she had known something my mother didn't think anyone knew. My mother had left because of money. My maternal grandfather, my mother's father, had died the year before she disappeared, and he had left a significant estate. The money was in a trust. The conditions of the trust required that it pass to his children, and if his children had children of their own, a portion was to go directly to grandchildren, which meant a portion was meant for me. My mother had calculated that if she terminated her parental rights and removed herself from my life completely, she could argue that I was no longer her dependent and therefore not entitled to the inheritance as her child. She had found a lawyer willing to help her construct this argument. She had planned the whole thing. She left me to protect her share of the money. She walked out on a 7-year-old child to protect her share of the money. Cecile had found out about this through my grandfather's original attorney, a woman she had known for decades, and Cecile had spent the next 19 years building a countercase, quietly, patiently, gathering documents, preserving evidence, working with Gerald Marsh to ensure that when the time was right, I would know the truth and I would have recourse. She had also, and this is the part that made me break down completely in Gerald's office, she had also been adding to my inheritance herself. Every year for 19 years, she had been putting money aside into a separate account in my name with a note attached that said simply, "For everything she was owed." My grandmother had spent 19 years making sure my mother's plan failed, and she had done all of it without telling me, without worrying me, without letting any of it touch my life before I was ready. She just quietly fought for me, for 19 years, while squeezing my hand twice and smelling like lavender and getting the lunches right.
My mother had kept in contact with certain members of the extended family, cousins, aunts on her side. She attended their events. She had maintained the image of a woman who had simply gone through a difficult divorce and moved on. No one knew about the money. No one knew about the plan. No one knew that she had left her 7-year-old daughter 40 minutes away and never looked back. Cecile's memorial, the formal one, the gathering of family that we had delayed until spring when everyone could travel, was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at my aunt's house. My mother's side of the family would be there. She would be there. Gerald asked me how I wanted to handle it. I told him I needed 2 weeks to think. Those 2 weeks, I did not cry, I did not rage, I did not call anyone. I just prepared. I worked with Gerald to get everything organized, every document, every piece of evidence, the original trust language, the legal maneuver she had used, the proof that she had been living 40 minutes away, the account Cecile had built, all of it, printed, organized, and copied in 3 sets. I thought very carefully about what I wanted the outcome to be. Not revenge, that word had never felt right to me. Truth. I wanted the people who had known her for 30 years, the cousins who had welcomed her at Christmas, the aunts who had sympathized with her difficult divorce. I wanted them to know the truth. Not because I wanted to destroy her, because I had been carrying a lie for 30 years that she built, and I deserved to put it down in front of witnesses. The Saturday of the memorial, I got dressed in the color I always wear when I need to feel like myself. I drove to my aunt's house. I was calm the entire drive. There were about 30 people there. I had not seen my mother in 30 years, but I recognized her immediately. She was across the room talking to 2 of my cousins. She looked fine, comfortable. She had the easy manner of someone who had never had to account for anything. She saw me. Something moved across her face. Not guilt, wariness. I waited. I let the afternoon unfold. I let people eat and talk and share memories of Cecile. And then, when the room had settled, when people were sitting in small groups, comfortable, full of food and memory, I stood up. I said, "Before we finish today, I want to share something with all of you, because Cecile would have wanted the truth told in the presence of the people who loved her." The room gave me their attention. I said, "Most of you know that my mother left when I was 7. What you probably don't know, what I didn't know until 6 weeks ago, is that she moved 40 minutes away, and she never once reached out." The room got very quiet. I said, "What you also don't know is why she left." I placed the documents on the coffee table in front of me. I said, "She left because her father's inheritance had a condition that would have required sharing a portion with me as her child. She terminated her relationship with me, with a 7-year-old, to protect her share of the money." I looked directly at her. She had gone completely still. I said, "My grandmother, Cecile, found out, and she spent 19 years building a legal case to make sure that what was owed to me could not be taken. She did that quietly, while raising me, while showing up for me every single day in every way my mother chose not to." I picked up the 3rd folder, the one with Cecile's account statements, the ones with the deposits going back 19 years. I said, "She also spent 19 years saving money for me, every year, without telling me, without asking for anything in return." My voice broke on that last part, just slightly, and I let it. I said, "I am not here to ask for anything from anyone in this room. I am not here for apologies or explanations. I am here because Cecile kept this truth safe for 19 years, and the least I can do is finally speak it out loud. I looked at my mother one more time. She did not look angry. She looked small. For the first time in my life, she looked small. I said, I forgive you, not for your sake, for mine, because I refuse to carry your decision for one more day. Then I sat down. The room was silent for a long time. And then my aunt, my father's sister, who had known me since the day I was born, got up from her chair and walked across the room and sat down next to me and took my hand. She didn't say anything. She just sat with me, and I thought of Cecile. In the weeks that followed, the calls came. Cousins who had believed my mother's version of events for decades, aunts who had never known the full story, some angry on my behalf, some just stunned. My mother called once. She left a voicemail. She said, I hope you're happy now. I listened to it once, then deleted it, because I realized that voicemail told me everything I had spent 30 years needing to know. There was no remorse in her voice, no grief, no reckoning with what she had done, just that. I hope you're happy now, like I had done something to her. And in that moment I understood, completely, finally, with no remaining doubt, that the closure I had been waiting for was never going to come from her. It had already come from Cecile. It had come in 19 years of Saturday mornings and school lunches and two-hand squeezes that meant, I see you, I am here, you are worth fighting for. The inheritance was real. Gerald finalized everything. What my grandmother had built and what was legally owed to me for 30 years came through. I'm not going to tell you the number. That's not the point. The point is that my mother's plan, the one she had designed to take something from me before I was old enough to even know it existed, failed completely, because one small woman in silver hair and lavender perfume decided that was not how this story was going to end.
If you've stayed with me through all of this, thank you. I know some of you watching this have your own version of the yellow dress memory. That one warm image you return to, trying to find something that explains everything that came after. I want to say something to you that I needed someone to say to me for a very long time. You did not make them leave. Their inability to stay had nothing to do with your value. And the people who did stay, the ones who showed up quietly, consistently, without making it a performance, those are the people who were truly your family. Biology is just a starting point. Love is what people do every day when they don't have to. Cecile didn't have to show up for me. She chose to. Every single day for 27 years, she chose to. That is the inheritance that matters more than any number in any account. So if you are out there right now feeling like someone's decision to leave was a verdict on your worth, I need you to hear this. It wasn't. You are still here. You are still building. You are still becoming. And somewhere in your life, maybe it's a grandmother, maybe it's an aunt, maybe it's a friend who has been quietly showing up, someone has been fighting for you in ways you don't even know yet. Let them. And when you find out what they did, say thank you out loud. Say it while they can still hear you.